Good evening, America. I am the Big Red One guy, reminding you that together we must break the machine. UN report finally shows what is glaringly obvious: trans athletes in women's sports is a major problem. Well, no fucking shit. People said it was no big deal. Trans athletes in women's sports are not a problem, they claim. Why are we freaking out over such a small percentage of the population? Or as soccer star Megan Rappin Asshole said back in 2023, show me all the trans people who are nefariously taking advantage of being trans in sports. It's just not happening. I can't speak to the nefarious part, but yes, it is happening. I've done 2 videos on this transformer stuff. A blockbuster new report from the UN presents a bleak picture of this injustice, the one that we've been gaslit about and told to believe is as real as Bigfoot. I haven't been gaslit, and plenty of other people on my side have not been gaslit about this shit. According to information received by March 30th, 2024, over 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions have lost more than 890 medals in 29 different sports. The violence against women and girls in sports study said that's nearly 900 medals lost to biological males who identify as women. Women, compiled by Raheem Al Salam, United Nations Special Rapporteur. I don't know why they can't just say reporter. They have to do some French shit on violence against women and girls. The report was presented to the UN General Assembly earlier this month. So they've been sitting on this report since March of this year. We had the Olympics, and we got to watch fucking men beat up women in boxing and whatnot. This is ridiculous. It calls for better protections for female athletes and explains how the invasion of biological men into women's sports was enabled by policies implemented by international federations and governing bodies. That's Will Thomas and Riley Gaines. We got these two twinks and this poor lady. This guy's got his cock and balls out and stuff like that because that's what we want to see. And while Al Salam's study did not call out specific events at a time frame when these male interlopers swooped in, it noted these injustices occurred at various levels of competition. But we need to be honest. It's not only been in the last few years that we've decided to shamefully replace common sense and fairness with empathy for mentally ill males. Yeah, they're all fucking sick in the head. And a lot of them, okay, listen, are there people with genuine gender dysphoria? Absolutely. And it's a mental illness, okay? We know that it is, and there's plenty of evidence to support that. We just don't want to accept that. But with that said, there are plenty of people that genuinely have that, right? Even though it's a small percentage of the population. But with these sports, a lot of these fucking dudes, okay, suck. They suck donkey dick. Okay, and they can't fucking compete against other men. All right, so they throw on a fucking wig or take some fucking hormones, try to grow out some breasts, fake. You know what I'm saying? It's just ridiculous. All right, and then they go and they stomp out women in their sports, right? And where are the fucking feminazis at? Nowhere to be fucking found. And while the Psalm study did not call out specific events, I said, sorry, I read that already. But we need to be honest. It's only been in the last few years that we've decided to shamefully replace common sense and fairness with empathy for mentally ill males. It started in Connecticut girls' track, crept into women's cycling, and reached peak insanity in 2022 when Leah Thomas, formerly Will Thomas, transitioned and joined the UPenn women's swim team. Not only were teammates told that they would have to welcome Thomas onto their squad and into their locker room, they were also told to shut up and take it like a man. And if they had a problem with this setup, they should seek counseling. What resulted was a culture of fear. Both parents and athletes were afraid to speak out. The girls were told they'd be sacrificing future careers, and cancellation was a guarantee. They'd be branded with the irredeemable transphobe tag pariahs. This, despite Thomas, who was an obvious dude standing 6'4", towered over competitors. Each image was more farcical than the next. The dam broke when former University of Kentucky swimmer Riley Gaines spoke out, saying it was wrong. Thomas's teammate Paula Scanlon followed. Both did so at great personal cost. Riley Gaines was a fantastic swimmer in college and could have went on and did some shit. All right, she could have maybe been an Olympian and represented us, but she gave it all up to to stand for this fight. And listen, people, this is a fucking terrible thing that has been going on. This started on the Obama. The divider in chief started this shit with the transgender stuff, right? And then Biden kind of solidified it, right? And forced schools and colleges from elementary school up through colleges, forcing them to make sure that they open up the spaces for boys to go in there and violate, girl spaces and their privacy and all that other stuff. So this is it's a cult. All right, it is a religion from the Marxist left that is just disgusting. All they want to do is groom your children, and they want to take parental rights away from you and all that other stuff. So this is, I'm going to get into this a little bit more. Just this one's going to be a little bit longer. All right, so just bear with me, okay? Because we're going to get into another one. All right, because you think that's one report, right? All right, here's another one. All right, I'm going to share another one with you right now. U.S. study on puberty blockers. Okay. U.S. study on puberty blockers goes unpublished because of politics, doctors say. The leader of the long running study said that the drugs did not improve mental health in children with gender distress and that the finding might be weaponized by opponents of the care. So what you have to understand about this doctor that I'm gonna mention her name. She's like the groomer in chief in the country, right? Like she wants to groom the shit out of your kids and mutilate them, So this is a little bit distressing, all right? An influential doctor and advocate of adolescent gender treatment said she had not published a long awaited study of puberty blocking drugs because of the charged American political environment. The doctor, Johanna Olsen Kennedy, began the study in 2015, almost 10 years ago, as part of a broader multi-million dollar federal project on transgender youth. She and colleagues recruited 95 children. They brainwashed 95 children to do this shit from across the country and gave them puberty blockers, which stave off the permanent physical changes like breasts or deepening voices that could exacerbate their gender distress known as dysphoria. The researchers followed the children for 2 years to see if the treatments improved their mental health. An older Dutch study had found that puberty blockers improved well being results that inspired clinics around the world to regularly prescribe that. I'm going to get into the Europeans changed that in recent years. Medication is part of what is now called gender affirming care. That's like, just it's nothing gender affirming about it. But the American trial did not find a similar trend, Dr. Olson Kennedy said in a wide ranging interview. Puberty blockers did not lead to mental health improvements, she said, most likely because the children were already doing well when the study began. So if you just leave the fucking children alone, they might figure it out, right? They're in really good shape when they come in, and they're in really good shape after 2 years, said Dr. Olson Kennedy, who runs the country's largest UG. It's just ridiculous. The conclusions seem to contradict an earlier description of the group in which Dr. Olson Kennedy and her colleagues noted that 1/4 of the adolescents were depressed or suicidal before treatment. So she fucking lied to everybody. Okay, probably lied to the parents too. All right, and if you're a parent and you're doing this, you deserve to get your kids fucking taken away from you. You have no right, all right, to parent any of these children if you're doing that. All right, so that's that, right? So I'm going to give you something else here in the United States this year. All right. So we got that study that they just dropped. Okay. That the groomer in chief, who fucking was abusing children with that study. All right. Dropped because they can't hide it anymore. All right. And I'm going down a path here. So you'll see when all of this takes place and why they're dropping all this shit now. Get that out there. Let's share this. Okay. It goes back to this. Okay. All right. Actually, no, that's not it. That's one of it. All right. So this is from 2023. Norway decides gender affirming care is not evidence based, but it actually goes back further than this. The Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board, NHIB, UCOM, decided Thursday that transgender surgeries, hormones, and puberty blockers are experimental. Norway is the fourth country to restrict or ban sex change surgeries, hormones, and puberty blockers for children. Finland, Sweden, and the UK have found that there's insufficient evidence that benefits of cross sex hormones, surgeries, and puberty blockers outweigh the cost for children. Uh, the knowledge base, especially research based knowledge of gender affirming treatment, hormonal and surgical, is deficient and the long term effects are little known. Right, of course not. You have to. A UConn report read this is particularly true for the teenage population where the stability of their gender incongruence is also not known. So, again, just leave the kids alone. They'll be all right. So that's one. I'm going to keep going down this. I'm going to keep going down this rabbit hole for you people. All right. Let's get into the next one. I'm going to unshare that one. All right. Here. Here's one right here. This is a excuse me, fam. Increasing number of European nations adopt. Damn it to hell, these stupid ads. I hate these ads. Increasing number of European nations adopt a more cautious approach to gender affirming care among minors. Okay, this is dated June 6, 2023. So March, you see March and June 6, right? Increasingly, European nations are adopting a more cautious approach to gender affirming care among minors. In March, for example, the Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board announced that was the article I just did would revise its current clinical recommendations with respect to gender affirming care for minors. The updated guidelines would restrict the use of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and transition-related surgery to clinical research settings. Norway joins other European nations such as Finland, Sweden, and the UK in introducing limits on the provision of gender-affirming care. Now, the UK is, they're a very progressive country, right? So, um, what do you call it? This is again, here's the pattern, right? And then I'm gonna go. I actually brought up this article, what do you call it, when I did a video on this stuff, on the DOJ going after uh a doctor in Texas who exposed this stuff with the Texas Christian Hospital in Houston. But this one right here, just want you to, here's another article right here. Okay, this was the article from the Daily Mail, and now it's dated, this is April 2024, so it's a year after the European articles came out. Most gender confused children grow out of it. Landmark 15-year study concludes as critics say it shows being trans is usually just a phase for kids. All right, I'm gonna leave a link to all of these so that if anybody wants to read them, they can. All right, so this is go now we go back. This is this year. All right, and then to end it all, we're gonna watch a nice video from a doctor who detransitioned, because it's important for you guys to understand that this is all fucking cultish crap. They're just grooming your kids, and they're taking over women's spaces, and as you heard from the beginning of the report, right? And whatnot. So uh you know let's get into it. Here we go. So I'm going to play this video. It's about 2 minutes long. I told you this video would be a little bit longer and whatnot, so uh sorry about that, but it just is what it is. Guys, you guys need to hear this stuff, fam. You guys need to hear this, and you guys need to protect your daughters. You need to protect your little cousins and all this, and stop all this shit. The nonsense has got to stop. Of course, we're gonna get
When you're going through tough weather.
we're gonna get an ad, of course, right? Because why would we not get an ad? And I'm not supposed to get ads, so I'm gonna be pissed about this. I can't even freaking. Sorry, fam. Jesus Christ.
Walt Heyer is the founder of Sex Change Regret, a charity with a mission to educate people on the implications of sex change.
My journey started in 1944 when I was 4 years old, and my grandmother, who was my primary babysitter on the weekend, was a seamstress. I showed some interest in the clothing that she was making, which were for women.
It's a sad story. I know his story.
Chiffon dress, full-length evening dress, put me in the dress and told me how cute I was, and that kind of launched that whole confusion. At
His
the
own
age of
his
4,
own family
it
member
turned into
confused him.
emotional and psychological child abuse. And as a result of being cross-dressed, my Uncle Fred began to sexually abuse me when I was 8 years old because of the dress. And because of the dress, my dad decided to do heavy discipline on me. So the dress caused me to be physically harmed and sexually harmed.
Heyer hid his scars for decades. He went to college, studied in
So just so you know, this doctor has detransitioned and has kind of been out there for a while now, trying to get the word out that this is dangerous stuff and whatnot, and trying to protect kids. So this is from a detransitioner, and from his experience.
engineering, got a job at NASA working on the Apollo program. He also married and had 2 kids. But something wasn't right. He was depressed and felt the urge to cross-dress. He sought counseling and found the best in the field. His gender therapist, he says, wrote the standards of care issued by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH.
He was a world-renowned therapist. I was making great money at the time and could afford the best therapist there was. And so I went to him and he said I had gender dysphoria. When I explained to him that I'd been sexually abused, physically abused, and emotionally abused as a child, remember at the time I'm seeing him, I'm 39 or 40 years old, and he said, well, that doesn't matter.
Heyer now knows that does matter. Sexual abuse, he says, is a common trigger for people who identify with gender dysphoria.
All right,
Want to
America, we got to get our heads out of our, we got to get our collective heads out of our asses with this transformer stuff. Okay, so what you need to understand is why this report, the American report, came out was because we, what do you call it, we're behind the Europeans. The Europeans did a 15-year study. Then then Norway, all these countries just started jumping on board that study with things that we kind of already know here in the United States, right? Like we know that this is a tragedy. What's happening to not only women's spaces, but what's happening to our kids. All right, we have these groomers in schools that are grooming our children into thinking they're something they're not. And if you just leave them alone, as the studies show, all right, plenty of people have said it on different shows, not just this one. All right, if you just leave them alone, there's a high probability that everything will work itself out. They might end up they might end up being gay, they may not. Well, why don't you just leave the kids alone and if you let their brains develop instead of, gaslighting them and grooming them into thinking they're something they're not, their brains aren't developing correctly. We know that there's a significant suicide rate among the transgender population, which is sad. All right. This is a serious deal, okay? And we gotta push back on this shit. And I'm glad that this stuff is changing and whatnot. I'm glad that the president, okay, of the, what do you call it? So just so you know, the president of the leading plastic surgeons organization says evidence doesn't currently support gender surgeries for minors. That's here in the United States. Okay. Um, it just, that's the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, has stood by that statement. So like, even our doctors are finally starting to wake up. Good doctors are starting to finally wake up and say we're not going to do this shit anymore. Okay. And we got to protect our children. All right. And we got to fight. Ladies, don't stop fighting for your spaces. Don't stop fighting to reclaim, your locker rooms and your sports and whatnot, because, we can't let this shit continue to happen. You know what happened when they tried to give the Transformers their own fucking league? Nobody showed up. All right. Around the time where Will Thomas was getting told he wasn't going to be able to swim on the women's team in the for the U.S. in the Olympics, they were like, okay, we'll go out and we'll go, we'll do something for you guys so that everybody could come together as a collective, okay, in their fucking little collection of mental illness and do whatever the fuck they want. All right, and compete against each other. No qualms about it. Nobody would say shit. They didn't do it. Nobody freaking joined up. Nobody was gonna sign up for it. Cause why? Because in the cases with women's sports, it's mainly men, okay, who can't compete against other men in their sports, so they have to do it against women in order to validate themselves because they're mentally unstable and mentally ill. All right, and then they take these poor kids from a young age, the ones that actually have gender dysphoria, and they're being groomed in their schools. They're being told that, yeah, you are something different. God doesn't fucking, God knows exactly how he made you. Okay. So, from a religious standpoint, God didn't put you in the wrong body. And from a biological standpoint, from science, all right, you don't even have to be, you can be an atheist. And if you just look at biology, it's incorrect. All right. It goes against the natural order of things, period. It's chaotic. All right. There's just nothing correct about it. So, women, keep staying on that fight. Keep doing your thing. There is some progress. It's slow going. It's a little bit slothy, but it's working. The American plastic surgeons are coming together now and saying, yeah, this doesn't do anything. They had to drop a report. All right, the groomer in chief, she had to drop the report because she was under pressure. All right, because of what's going on in Europe. European countries one by one are falling in line saying we're not going to mutilate our children anymore. All right, we'll give them the psychiatric help that they need, but we're not going to mutilate them anymore. Anyway, America, I'm the Big Red One guy signing out. Don't forget that together we must break the machine. God bless you all, and God bless America. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications so you know when I drop what do you call it, video. I will see you in the next one, fam, and I will make sure that I leave a link to all these articles in the description. Have a good night, fam. See you next time.